Okay, so this is of a little bit of a short introduction about myself. So as I have already told that my name is Amit Pandey. Okay, and the certification that I currently hold is CompTIA A plus, right? Network plus, security plus, which is from a defensive point of view. If you are familiar with this field of cybersecurity, then I have also clarified I have all the certification of CH as well, which is of the offensive side, right? In the field of cybersecurity, the basic certifications, then Cloud Plus, which is also provided by the CompTIA. Then I have certified, I have a specialty, particularly in AWS, right? AWS Cloud Practitioner, AWS Solution Architect, AWS Security Specialty, okay, and AWS Machine Learning. And I have one certification in Azure currently, okay, it's Azure 900. It is a beginner level certification, in particular in Azure. Hope getting more certified in the coming months. I will be setting for more of this Azure certificates. Okay, and I have a +3 experience in this particular field of cybersecurity. Okay, and before coming to the field of cybersecurity, guys, I was into the front end development part, 2 years work into that, and then switched my career and came into this particular field of cybersecurity, and then into the particular cloud part. Right, so I have a kind of a specialty into the AWS part, particularly. Okay, fine. Okay, so let's begin. Right. So this is kind of a short introduction about InfosecTrain. We were established in 2016, right? And we provided, security technologies, training, and consultancy to different organization across the globe, right? Okay. So we teach bug bounty, we teach, penetration testing, advanced penetration testing, right? We teach web application penetration testing, okay, the cloud part as well, Azure and GCP as well. The multiple you courses or trainings we provide to the different organization across the globe, and these are our endorsement, and these are the trusted clients we have, right? Okay, okay, so this is going to be the agenda for today. Okay, these are the things that you will be finding in the today's session, right? So the first session, the topics like threat hunting overview will be getting, right? Methodologies we have in the threat hunting, that we will be also seeing as well. Then we have, what is the future of threat hunting, that a little bit of an exposure about threat hunting in cloud. What are the different services we have in the cloud which will be helping us to kind of guide to do the threat hunting part, right? Okay, so the first question is a very basic question, is what is an information security and the cyber security? And as we will be progressing, then you will be able to understand all the basic concept that I'm talking or teach, right? You will be able to connect all of them. So basically, information security is protecting information in any form, right? Whether it's a digital, whether it's a physical, in any sort of a form, you are protecting the sort of an information. But cyber security is particularly protecting the information in a digital format, right? If it is in a digital format, all the infrastructure that you're building, all the anti-malware solution, SIM solution, endpoint secure, or everything that you're building around it, it comes under the cyber security we have, right? So information security protecting information of every type, and cyber security deals with information that you're dealing with. Then we start with what is a threat hunting is, right? So threat hunting, it is a proactive approach. Okay, proactive approach, you can say, uh, a process to search for the attacker's tactics, techniques, and procedure, which we say as the TTPs, right? So what we do in the threat hunting is that we proactively search, or analyze uh, our system, right? We search through our system for attackers' TTP, tactics, techniques, and procedure within our environment, within our system, within our network, right? Whether that particular thing is present in the system or not. That what we do in the TTP, in the threat hunting particularly. Okay, and TTP, the techniques and procedure help us a lot, guys, right? In that, so attacker TTP must be researched and understood to know what to research for in collecting data, information about attackers TTP most often derived from signatures, indicators, right, and behavior observed from threat intelligence sources. So this added context should include like target facilities, what systems were affected, protocols that were manipulated, and any other information pertinent to better understand an attacker's TTP. Fine. Okay. So the threat hunting, it requires accurate threat intelligence to achieve its success. So the defenders leverage threat hunting, to combat adversary behaviors, to protect against any kind of a cyber attack. Okay. So defenders investigate commodities across various environment and ecosystem, okay, to understand and disrupt these attack vectors such as phishing. We have, right, we have spear phishing, okay, and we have other kinds of, like, we have tailgating, all these kind of things we have in place, right? So the defender dismantles the criminal's infrastructure, sharing information gathering through the course of these investigation. These additional insight are shared, globally through defenders intelligence network to increase the security posture of the global software ecosystem. Okay, right. So this is a kind of a very small introduction about the threat hunting. If I like to summarize threat hunting, it is a proactive approach where what you do is that you go by yourself. As you can see, like I have shown you in the slide, an image of a dog, right? A kind of a dog which is an hunter dog. So what we do in this particular threat hunting is that we intentionally go and we find out that whether someone is sitting over in our network or not. Okay, without any sort of an alarm or anything like that, we intentionally go and figure out that something is wrong with our system or not. That is in general what a threat hunting is. Fine. Okay, now if you move ahead, the next topic we come across is what is by the name of what is threat actor and a threat surface, right? Threat actor, in short, if you say that, threat actor is a particular person who is kind of bad person, right, who is trying to gain an access to an organization, who's trying to steal our things, right? This is the particular thing which we are focusing in our organization. In threat hunting, the threat actor is that particular person or the particular software which we will be focusing on finding out even before it compromises or damages our infrastructure. That is what the proactive approach means, right? Okay. And threat surface is any kind of a surface through which the attacker could easily able to gain access to your system. Fine. That is something which is called the threat actors we have. So there are numerous ways the cyber criminal utilizes uh, to penetrate the organization defenses. Like, let's talk about some of them. Let's say, for example, there is something which is called the phishing. Okay, that is a methodology which we attackers use, right? So it is estimated that more than 90% of all the cyber attacks were initiated by phishing attack, right? So phishing is defined by using email as the attack vector to inject malicious code, or you can say that, like, diverting the user to a phony website to harvest the user credential. So this is kind of very popular attack leveraged by cyber criminals due to its low barrier to entry, and you can say high successful click through rate by unsuspecting victims. So phishing is usually accredited to mass email campaign. However, sophisticated criminal target specific individuals and organization exclusively. So this is commonly referred to as spear phishing as well. Okay, so when you do, when you target to some specific individual, that is something which is called the spear phishing. Okay, these kinds of different approaches the attackers take to gain access inside your system. Okay, so that's the thing we have to understand from that particular context. I'm telling you these kind of terminologies, these kind of tactics. Why? Because in threat hunting, when you do the threat hunting, you have to think from the perspective of an attacker. Okay, you have to think like, okay, how a cyber criminal is going to get inside my organization. That is the thing you have to figure it out. You have to build that mindset, right? That is the success. Okay, tools, techniques, everybody have that, but that particular mindset is very important. So that's the thing. Okay, So spear phishing is, it is increasingly common form of phishing that user information about a target to make attack more sophisticated and personal. So these attacker may, for instance, refers to their target by their specific name or job position instead of using generic title like, which are used in broader phishing campaign. Okay, so these cyber criminals, what they do, is they send malicious email to suspecting individual who then click on that link, right? Who that particular link, right? And that individual will be taken to a fake website that impersonate as a real page, such as like your bank account or anything like that, to enter the credentials. So the moment you click on that particular website sent by you by a email, okay, and you click into it, it will be opening up a bank account. It will look like a bank account, right? You will be getting that. Okay, so what you will be doing is that you will be entering your credentials. Any particular person who is not aware about all these kind of things, what is going to happen is that that particular person is going to enter the credentials, right? Okay, and or what can happen is that the moment he click on that particular link, a malware is going to be get inserted into his particular website. Fine, that is going to be thing, and it is automatically going to be downloaded on your particular device, right? And that could lead to capturing your credentials, right, on the device or your browser memory or any kind of a data that you have in your particular system. It could be stealing it up, it could be encrypting it, okay, like that. So the victim credentials, are then collected by cyber criminals who use the credentials, to gain access to legitimate website, or you can say, even to victims corporate network. So this access can be temporary, okay, which the attackers have gained because some employees of an organization has intentionally clicked a link, or turn the victim machine into a zombie, right? Which is also called in the particularly they have a name in the field of cybersecurity, which is called by the name of bot, right? Where a bot is a compromised system, which you have, let's say, for example, if I send you a virus through a link, okay, I shared you a link, and you click into that particular link, now a virus gets installed in you, or a kind of a bot or a malware is get installed in your particular system. Even you have the physical guys access of your particular system, right? Everything other than that, right? Your IP address, your MAC address, which from where, which kind of packet are your system is sending, which packets their system is receiving, all these kinds of stuff, right? At the end of the day, I can control that. So there's something which is called a zombie, or which is called by the name of bot, right? So that could be thing, and I can control it through something which is called command and control. That is the one approach which we have, phishing. Okay, many organizations, if I share my particular personal experience, when I have visited multiple organizations for the auditing part, I have seen that there are 99% or multiple articles or the investigation reports that I have studied by myself, or I have discussed with my friends. 99% till my experience, the breaches that have taken place, two reasons are 99% of the cause of that. First reason is that weak password. Your password is very weak, and it can be easily brute force. I think you are well aware about what is a brute force is. So the particular password can be easily brute force. The smaller your password is, the simpler your password is, definitely for sure it is very easy to break it. Okay, nowadays the PC, the computers are very very smart and very powerful, and within a minute your normal password can be easily cracked using the brute force attack. Okay, that's the thing. And the second thing is that clicking on any kind of a suspicious link, that is the one of the approaches, right? Now comes the second thing, second very important, which is called the ransomware. Okay, so now what really happens is that threat actor, this is another approach they use to gain access to a system, right? So now what they do, the attackers, what they have done is that they will be sitting over your network, right, for a prolonged period of time, for 5 years, for 6 years, or even 5 to 6 months as well. And when the time is right, when you are working on a very critical information or very critical project, or when you are working with a very sensitive data related to the government, which is very very sensitive and it should not be leaked compromised, or its integrity should not be compromised. What the attacker do is that, because the particular attacker is sitting over the internet, he knows your activity, and that particular moment, that sweet spot, he is going to attack you, right? That is something we have in place, right? Ransomware attack. Okay, so these bad actors, they are very notorious for injecting ransomware into the phishing mail. So what is going to happen is that you will be getting a mail, guys. Okay, and you will be getting a mail, you will be clicking on that particular xyz email, and what is going to happen is that you will kind of a virus would be installed in your system. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is that, I think you're aware about the ransomware, the functioning of the ransomware. If not, let just summarize. Let me summarize that. What the ransomware virus does is that it encrypts all your files and folder. Every bit of file and folder you have in your system would be encrypted. Okay, and now what is going to happen is that, in order to get your own file and folder, you have to pay some kind of a ransom to that particular bad actor, and that is not a very smart move from my particular perspective, I would say. Okay, that is a thing. So this is an approach. So first of all, the threat actor approach is phishing, right? And another is approach is the ransomware attack. Okay, these are the very famous one which I have experienced myself, right? Okay, so this is the things, right? And this ransomware can cause lot more damage than we might realize. So this ransomware is a type of malicious software that hacks the user system, and locks that particular person out from accessing even its own files or data, right? And then, as I told you, that the particular person, as the name himself tells, it asks for the ransomware, particularly in the cryptocurrency, right? So why in the cryptocurrency, why the hackers are so interested in asking every time in the crypto or in the Doge coin or anything like that, or then the Bitcoin? Why are they interested in that? Because if you pay them in Bitcoin or anything like a cryptocurrency, it's very difficult, or I would say even next to impossible, to track down those attackers. Okay, that is the thing. So why I'm telling you, why I'm so much focusing upon threat actors. So you have to do, if you want to do the threat hunting, in threat hunting, what we do, in short, in threat hunting, we catch these threat actors. You will only able to catch these threat actors if you have built that particular mindset. What are the tools, techniques, methodologies? What are the recent, the ransomware things, or what are the new ransomware malware types of things they are using up? Okay, like the TTP we have, techniques, tactics, techniques, and procedures we have, right? So that's why I'm just providing the information. So ransomware is another which is very important, right? A lot of articles I have read, and I have seen by myself as well. So phishing is one of the tool which is used, right? Ransom is another one which is used by the attackers. Okay, okay, so like that's the kind of thing we have in place. Then we have another which is very important, interesting threat actor we have, which is called by the name of APT, right? So what this, if you break down these three words, advanced, persistent, threat, what it means is that advanced stands for the tool that will be used is much more complicated, right? It is very complicated tools they are using it. Why they are using complicated tools? In order to hide themselves, right? And then we have something which is called the persistence mean they will be sitting over the network or as the system for a long period of time, months or even years as well. And threat, because they are quite definitely for sure compromising your CIA trait, confidentiality, integrity, and availability, which are the pillar of the information security. Fine, that is the thing. So three things we have in place. So APT is a very important thing we have to catch, because they uses advanced tactics, techniques, and procedures to hide themselves inside the network. So you have to, if you want to catch an APT, advanced persistent thread, you have to think like that. Okay, so that's it. So APT is the thing we have in place, right? Okay, and particularly this APT, you can categorize them under national state, national hackers, national state sponsored hacker, right? It means that these are the kind of attackers which are funded by the organization. If, let's say, for example, there is one country, United States, and it is being continuously been attacked by these APTs or the another kinds of hackers. So we're definitely for sure if they comes under national state, what it means is that those kind of attackers are being funded well by different organization. That is something we have in place, right? So APT mostly comes under this national state because it takes a lot of R&D, research and development, and a lot of resources in order, um, to perform to act as an APT, right? Because a lot of research and a lot of things and a lot of resources are being utilized. Okay, that's the thing. So it's take a lot of time to even catch them as well, right? Okay, so combating them, right? Combating this national state or this APT is a very complex process, right? Okay, so that involves both technological challenges as well as the legal judicial judiciary challenges as well, guys, right? They will be just sitting over a piece of your over your network, and what they will be doing is that they will be just looking what kind of packets that you are sending and what kind of packets that you are you know not sending, right? Or which kind of packet you are receiving, all those kind of things they will be doing it. Okay, then another very important thing in the context of threat hunting we have, which is called by the name of what is indicator of compromise. Indicator of means, as the name suggests by itself, indicator of compromise means some kind of an indication we have in place that a system has been compromised, right? These kind of information are very helpful for us, guys. Okay, right? This is something which is called indicator of compromise we have in place. So these kind of information, what it does is that it tells you that something is wrong with your system. Let's say, for example, let's say in a hypothetical example, okay, we have, your system, right, is 16 GB of RAM you have in your system. It has i7 and everything is working fine. Okay, uh, very good configuration you have, like 4 GB of graphic cards, uh, i7 12th generation, 16 GB of RAM, and everything, right? Very good configuration of a laptop or a PC you have in place. And what you're doing is that from few days you're noticing that when you are using your system, okay, even for performing some very small task of just copying a file of 100 MB from one folder, one location to another location, your system is lagging a lot. Okay, so what you do is that in that particular process, it shows that somebody else is utilizing your resources. Sometime, most of the cases, normally it is the system which is doing some kind of a scanning in background or updating in background. That could be a normal process. But most of the time, what can happen is that if your system is compromised, if you just look closely, open your task manager and look that for a minute, that in your task manager there would be an application running for which would be eating up like 90% of your resources, your CPU capacity, your RAM, all these things it will be eating up, that kind of things. Okay, that is something we have. It's kind of indicator of compromise. So if you open your task manager, in that particular task manager you will be getting that many of the things is it's showing that a lot of CPU utilization is there, a lot of RAM is being utilized even if you have not opened an application. If that kind of things is kind of for a long duration of time you see those kind of thing, it is kind of, you can say, comes under indicator of compromise. It is kind of indication that something is going wrong. This is kind of very small, in a very small and layman language I'm explaining from a point of view of a normal PC. In the organizations we have sim solutions, we have different kind of solutions, we have logs, you can just logs, you can see into the logs as well, you can configure them, right? Okay, so the moment it finds out there's some kind of logs are picked up which is look very suspicious, some kind of alert would be generated and an email set would be sent to the respective parties, and all this kind of thing architecture you can build as well, right? Okay, so that call comes under something which is called indicator of compromise we have in place. Fine. Okay, then we move on to our next topic we have, is something which is again important in the context of this threat hunting, which is called by the name of TTP, right? TTP means tactics, technique, and procedure. Fine. Okay. Very important thing because these are, you can say, the building block of that particular threat hunting, right? So Tactic means like we know what is the hacker goal is. Okay, what is the critical information that particular hacker wants to steal. Technique is right. So tactic means in short what is the particular goal of the attacker, what he wants to steal, and the technique is what kind of different tools or techniques that particular attacker, whether it's this APT, or whether it's a black hat hacker, or whether it's a gray hat hacker, or that space script kiddies, or a state sponsored hacker, any kind of an hacker we have multiple kinds of bad actors. Okay, so out of these bad hackers, right, whichever technique they use, that comes under the technique part, right, with the tools they use, right, like they use Wireshark, they use the burp suit, any kind of tools they use to find out or capture the packets, do some kind of a modification in that particular thing. Okay, that comes under the technique part. And then we have something which is called the procedure. Procedure mean step by step orchestration of an attack, right? Like first I will be performing this, then I will be performing this and this and this. So step by step orchestration of a thing is something which is called the procedure. So this is something which is called the TTP, right? Tactics, technique, and procedure, right? In tactics, what we do is that we ask the question, what is the goal of this attacker is, and the technique, the goal, we look into the procedure, the tools that that particular person has used or the attacker has used. And procedure is step by step orchestration of that particular attack. Like he compromised, then he first done the OSINT, then he performed this kind of thing, then he gained access, then he compromised this port. That kind of orchestration, right? A kind of step by step in a synchronized manner, which, like, breaking down which kind of step he did first, then second, then third, then fourth, and fifth. And like this he was able to get the hand or steal the sensitive information. Okay, that is something which is called the procedure. Very important thing, because that will be helping up in your understanding in the threat feeds, right? Okay, so till now, guys, we have understand the thing which is called, uh, you know, what is information security, cyber security, what is indicator of compromise we have, right, and what is TTP, right, tactics, technique, and procedure. Okay, so now the question arises: why? What is the necessity of a threat hunting is, right? So this particular digital world, right, is changing at an incredible rapid pace, right? Every day every new thing is coming into the market, and every day some kind of new AI tool is coming into the market, right? And it is very unrealistic to believe that your organization or that particular tool that your organization is using will be compromised. Even that chat gpt, okay, from the day it has been launched, is a very hot topic that you know everybody is using it, right? One of his version is free of cost. I think 3.5 version is free of cost, and if you want to use a much more advanced version of the chat gpt, there is a fourth edition of it, fourth chat gpt 4. You just have to pay for a certain amount of monthly, your subscription is there. You will pay that and you will get a better service. Okay, but there is always a thing that it can be compromised as well. So it, in the cybersecurity, whether it's a cloud or whether it's an on premises, you have to understand that it is very unrealistic or very stupid to think that your organization would never be compromised, right? Many people have this particular notion that their system would never be compromised, their applications they use, they will never be compromised, their website would never be compromised. That is never going to be the case. In the field of cybersecurity, there is a term we use a lot, which is no system is perfect, right? There are going to be flaws and problems in your particular application, in your particular system, right? That is always going to be there. Okay, so this is so, again, as I told you, it's you know problems are going to be always there. There are always going to be vulnerabilities. If today would be no vulnerability would be there, doesn't mean that tomorrow cannot be a new not new vulnerability in your particular application. Okay, so there is no application or infrastructure which is hack proof. There's nothing like that. Okay, so it is impossible to eliminate every threat to your particular organization. Okay, if you have ever even considered that, okay, that my organization is prone to attacks, even if you have spent billions of dollars, still it is impossible to eliminate every attack. So what is the right approach? The right approach is that in the middle. Okay, there are two approaches which I have seen many people taking, which are very not a smart move, I would say. The first thing is that is the one approach where they live in the deny that their organization cannot be compromised, and another approach these guys take is that I will be fixing up every kind of a problem. Both of them is not possible. The practicality does not lie here. So what is the correct approach? The correct approach is in the middle. The middle approach is that I will be analyzing my risk. I will be analyzing which are the critical asset I have. Right, there is something which is called NIST cybersecurity framework, which we'll be discussing as in today's session as well. Will help you in understanding the the framework of the security framework of the organization. Okay, so that middle approach, what it does is that it helps you in understanding that what are your risks. Okay, what are the and what is your actual infrastructure is, and then what you can do to reduce your risk. Right, that is the main issue or main goal here is to reduce your problems. Right, you cannot eliminate it. No technology never is going to eliminate your risk or your possibility of getting compromised. The only thing that is going to do is that they're going to help you in reducing it. Okay, that's it. Okay, so many people have this again a big question that whether the company size is big or small, should I go for the threat hunting part? There is always a possibility of the organization being compromised, irrespective of their size. So, organization which is very small or the organization which is very large, there's always going to be a very high possibility that your system is going to be compromised. Attackers does not care about anything. Neither your race, neither your geographical location, neither your political ideology, with neither your you know anything. They does not care about anything, right? They only steal, they only want access to your system, they only want your data. That's it. They does not discriminate other than anything. Okay, to keep that thing in mind. Okay, so whether you are an organization which is holding only 10 people, or whether your organization which is big as Microsoft, Google, or Apple, which is holding thousands of software engineers in them, it doesn't matter. If they find out vulnerability and if they're capable enough to delete the data, extract the data, they will be doing it. So even if you're a small organization, there is an approach that I will be telling you in this in the session as well. We will be as we will moving ahead, right? But just denying and saying that okay, we are a very small organization and nothing can happen to us, that is not a very smart move. Fine. Okay, so there are three things that are required before an adversary can be considered a threat. Okay, all right. So that's a very important thing, because what we do is that if we find out a lead of that is something going wrong in this particular area in a system, what we do is that we then divert all our resources in the threat hunting to analyze it. Okay, so the first thing is that what we'll be doing is that there are three things that we help us to consider a thing is a threat or not. First is opportunity, intent, and capability to cause any harm. Let's say for example a kind of a system or an application is present in your system. Okay, will that particular application, will you mark that it as a ransomware or a virus? The question is no. Or the question or the answer for that particular question could be it depend upon the situation, how that particular application is acting. The application would be there and it would be just an normal or a garbage application, nothing else, does not performing anything, just sitting there, nothing else. Okay, so it could not be marked at malicious, right? It is not doing anything. Okay, so you will only mark a application or anything as a threat when it is having opportunity. Okay, it will be using some kind of an opportunity in place. Find any vulnerability in your system, it will be using that particular thing as an opportunity to gain access to your system. Another thing, intent on that particular application should be clear to you. If you are on an organization in enterprise level, the intent of that particular application should be very clear to you, that why this particular application is sitting in my application, it's sitting over my servers, right? The intent of it should be very clear. And another thing is that capability of harming it. So if this particular application is there, can this particular application harm me? Can it perform any kind of a attack or steal the data or something like that? Okay, that if all of these three, opportunity, using of an opportunity, intent of malicious intent of that particular application, right, and capability to harm you, is all of them are correct, right, then it is considered as a, a threat to your particular system, right? Remember this thing. Okay, that's why, in India particularly, the TikTok and all these Chinese applications were blocked, because they were they were showing a red flag, right? They were showing symptoms that they can steal your data, they are opportunistic, like any kind of vulnerability in your system they can leak it, the information, to Chinese government or any third party, or they have a malicious intent, they are not transparent. So they kind of showing the symptom that they are not having a very good intention. That's why the central government in India particularly blocked it, right? And many other governments across the globe are in a process of doing that as well. Okay, and every government, would be performing that if the intent of the application of the software is not transparent. Okay, right, perfect. Okay, so no say cyber security system is impenetrable or capable of recognizing or stopping every potential threat, right? No matter how many billions of dollars you spend in your building of infrastructure, no matter how many firewall you put, how many good rules you have set up in that particular firewall, you set up the EDR, you said anything like that. Okay, you know still there are possibility that the attacker would be able to bypass all these firewalls and gain access to your system. Okay, so the hackers tactics, weapons and technologies are evolving so rapidly that by the time a new threat signature is learned, defenses may have already been compromised, right? So organizations are adopting the assume breach mentality to counter the side effects. So the organization, what they do is that they kind of milk this particular mindset that we are already compromised. That is something which is called assume breach, where they by themselves, without any solid proof, without any logs, they assume by default that they are already compromised, and now they will be doing their task in an order to get resolve of that. Okay, so assume breach is an approach that assume that your enterprise is already breached and vulnerable. So this contracts will stopping every attack with view of not being breached and accepting that the adversary has already penetrated the enterprise. So the focus is to change the security posture of the organization to proactive, knowing the adversary and monitoring it, right? So the attacker goal can change dramatically. This could be as simple as stealing valid login credential, to purchasing Amazon good, or as sophisticated and dangerous to bring down the nuclear reactor, causing fatality, and all these kind of things could happen. So the attackers use stolen credentials to carry out search and steal or search and destroy mission, right, using tools and technique, okay, to the end user. So this enables them to go undetected and cause tremendous damage to the intellectual property. So the threat hunting, is a necessary to counter the sophisticated technique that cyber criminal use to evade detection by conventional means. Okay, so attackers are innovating at an alarming rate, creating new form and attack. An organization cannot afford to wait weeks or months to learn about these incidents. From the moment of intrusion, the cost, the damage, as well as the impact of the attack goes by the hour. So the threat hunting focuses on identifying the penetration tester who are already within the organization system and network, and who have three characteristics of a threat, right? Okay, So threat hunting is a formal process that is not same as preventing breach or eliminating the vulnerability. Instead, it is a dedicated attempt to proactively identify the adversary who have already breached the defense and found a way to establish a malicious presence in the organization network. So threat hunting is a human driven, right, and irritative and semantic. So hence it's effectively reduce you can say your damages, your overall risk to an organization. It proactive, it's kind of this particular threat hunting proactive nature enables the security professional to respond to the incidents more rapidly, right? Because you're finding out some kind of issue, or you're always looking for the threat, right? That kind of thing. So it reduces the probability of an attacker being able to cause damage to organization, its system, or you can say its data, right? So this is kind of a brief introduction about what a threat hunting is, what an importance this is holds, right? In this completely changing world where everything is changing every single day and the attacks are becoming much more complicated day by day, right? So this is the thing, the threat hunting helps us a lot. So now the next things we have in place, which is called by the name of stages of hunt. Okay, so we have found out, okay, fine, now threat hunting is good for my organization, it's fine, it's perfect, everything is look good. Okay, but let's talk about the stages of the hunt, right? So we have particularly three stages of hunt, right? Okay, which is very crucial. If you go by by the internet, there are multiple articles in place, and those multiple articles would be having multiple stages. But right now, just for an overview, I'm just telling there are right now in a general three stages. First is purpose of the hunt, right? First of all, we find out the purpose. Okay, what is the purpose of the hunt is where the hunt will be occurring, right? That where, fine, and the desired outcome, right? The desired outcome. Perfect. So these are the stages of hunt we have in place. The purpose of the hunt, where the hunt will occur, and desired outcome of the threat hunt. Okay, so let's go by them one by one. Okay, so first of all is that purpose of the hunt. So the overall purpose of the stent, the purpose states that why the hunt need to occur, right? Because remember this thing, the threat hunting is an expensive process as well. It is not a thing, you know that every organization would be able to afford. As we will be progressing in the session, we'll be able to understand that threat hunting is a bit of a tricky thing. Okay, and you need a sophisticated people, you need a trick, sophisticated tools and some very highly skilled people to in order to perform this particular thing, the threat hunting. Okay, so what really happens is that we have three stages particularly in the threat hunting. The first is the purpose, where the particular thing is, where the hunt will occur. In the where the hunt will occur is that it includes scoping the environment. Scoping means setting up the kind of a limitation, a boundary, right? Where the hunt would be taking place and where it would not be. And you know that is a thing which we would do in where the hunt will take place. Let's say for example in your organization you have 5 servers in place. If you want to do the threat hunting, you will be not doing the threat hunting on all the 5 server. First of all, it will be costly. Another thing, it will take a very tremendous amount of time and months, like even 6 7 months it will be taking for you, because it is a very long process, right? And a lot of thorough understanding is needed for that. So what you do is that you set up a scope in order to catch that particular threat actor. What you do is that you just set up a scope. That what we do in the stage of hunt, right? Where it is, and there which is something which is called the desired outcome. The stage of the hunt we talk about something which is called the desired outcome. The desired outcome should align with the business objective, right? And indicate how the threat hunt support reduction of the risk, right? So desired outcome should be there, right? If there is a threat you have found out, you will be how do you will be mitigating it, how you will be containing it, and it should be aligned with your business objective. And what is a business objective related to the threat hunting? To reduce the risk of being compromised, right? That is an objective of the threat hunting is actually, right? Before the attacker actually steals your data or causes some serious damage to your organization, what you're going to do is that you are going to just jump into it, resolve that particular issue before it's too late. You are going to handle that particular thing, contained, eradicated, and that's it. That is the thing we have in place: stages of hunt, purpose, where, and outcome, and desired outcome, right? That is the thing we have. Okay, stages of hunt. Fine. Okay. So now another topic we have is, does the organization size matter in threat hunting? As I told you that organization of all size and industries prefer to detect every possible threat as soon as they are manifested, right? So this is the primary outcome of increasing spending on automated cybersecurity solution. A relatively, you can say, a mature organization can start a threat hunting program by planning and allocating time and people, but the undertaking does not call for the expensive tool or, you can say, years of experience, right? So small and medium sized organization could start with simple and a very progressive steps and gradually extends on data type and scenario. Note that even threat hunting does not always find signs of compromise, but it dramatically increases visibility, okay, of your system and understanding of your environment. So the automated tools can only do so much, especially since a new tag may not have a signature of what most important, and fact that not all the threats can be found using a traditional detection method, right? So in short, every organization for go for it. If there's a very small organization, you have to use kind of an automation tools, but there are some limitation for the automation tools as well, because the automation tools rely on the signature. If the threat is new, your signature, the attack, your automation tool would not be able to perform it, because the automation tools rely upon the database to identify which is a threat and which is not. If it is not present in its database, it will completely mark it as non-threat, a genuine website or a file or a folder, and it will be just uh, flying it over the radar of the that particular tool. Okay. Now let's talk about threat modeling. So threat modeling is the heart of threat hunting, guys, right? So in threat modeling, should be improved over time by expanding, you can say, the coverage and threat actors targeting the organization or the same industry, or say using the same platform or the attacking capability. There are two prerequisite of threat modeling: assess inventory, which critical level should be defined, right? And for each of these asset, security mitigations and defense control, including but not limited to firewall, IDS, IPS, anti-malware solution, endpoint security, data leakage prevention, DLP, okay, authentication, authorization, right? Encryption control should be listed. Knowing that platform, asset, and security controls are available helps threat modeling and hunting team define the scope and priority of the planning. Depending on what the maturity level, which we'll be understanding as well, the threat maturity level, that's the scope should be started small and grow as the maturity level increases, right? So what really happens is that threat hunting, finding, and investigation should be prioritized based on, you can say, impact and the likelihood. So the threat model should be mapped based on the organization asset. Threat modeling is a systematic approach of proactively assessing the weakness of the IT environment or your particular organization, enterprise, or application, right, or your asset, and based upon those criticality level and potential vulnerability, a remediation plan should be developed, right? So defining the scope plays a very important role of developing a successful threat hunting. Okay. So there are components, there are multiple components of threat modeling, right? First of all, there is security control, right? There is threat intelligence, there is assess inventory. Okay, let me write it down as well, right? The component of threat modeling, okay, it varies a lot, guys, right? Okay. So the first is, we have security control in place. IT is the intelligence, okay, and vulnerabilities you can say as well, security control, threat intelligence, and the vulnerability we have in place, right? So these are the kind of a basic building block of your threat modeling. Your vulnerabilities, your threats, intelligence, right? The security controls you have in place, we have multiple, we have technical control, right? We have you know uh, compensating controls, a lot of controls we have in place, right? All those things we have. Okay, so all those comes under the threat modeling. Fine, very important. So now let's talk about threat modeling methodologies, right? Let me just erase it. Okay, let's talk about some of the threat modeling methodologies. We have one which is very famous threat modeling methodology, which is we have in place, this one, right? Which is Microsoft Security. Yep. Okay. So the first threat modeling methodology I have is something which is called, which is by the name of Microsoft Security Development Life Cycle. Okay, which is also called as SDL, Security Development Life Cycle. Let me write down. Very important, guys. Okay, SDL, Security Development Life Cycle. This is kind of a threat modeling methodology. Okay, one of it. There could be plenty of it, but just I'm discussing right now one. Otherwise, trust me, even 40 hours would be less for discussing these even threat models. There are plenty of them. Okay, fine, right. Okay, so let's talk about Microsoft Security Development. So it defines, the threat modeling approach in 5 steps. Like in the diagram that you can see in your screen as well, it is in 5 steps. It is present. Let's talk about each one of them step by step. Okay, first is defining the scope and the depth of the analysis. Right. So when dealing with the potential, so let's say for example, this could be considered the first. Okay, this could be considered the first. So let's discuss first, second, and third. Like this one. This we will be discussing it. Okay. Okay, so defining the the scope and the depth of the analysis, right? So when we dealing with the potential threat like cyber attack, it's important to figure out how big and how dangerous the threat might be. To do this, right? To do to do this, what we do is that we use something called as threat modeling, which help us to understand the different way an attack could have happened and it could trigger. So once we know the possible threat, the next step is to make list of all the important things we have need to protect, like computers, data, sensitive information. We also need to figure out how crucial each of these things is to our organization. This helps to understand where we need to focus our efforts to defend against the threat, and plan how to fix things if an attack happens. Basically, it is about preparing and having a plan to protect ourselves from potential danger, especially in the digital world. The another one step we have is something which is called gaining an understanding of what are threat modeling. So the threat hunting, so particularly the threat hunters are trying to understand how the different part of the computer system and network work. They want to know what each part does and how they all fit together, kind of like creating a map of a system. By knowing the standard way the system is set up, they can keep an eye on the unusual and as well as the suspicious changes in the future. So if something strange happens, or if new connections are made that should not be there, they can quickly identify it as you can say the potential problem, right? So to help us with understanding, they gather diagrams that show how everything is connected. These diagrams are make pictures that show that system architecture, which means that how all these pieces are organized and linked together. Additionally, they also look at how the system is used in businesses like workflow, understanding how the businesses work with the system, help them recognizing unusual behavior that might indicate an attack in the future. Okay, so overall this particular stage is about learning about everything is supposed to be. So you know so they can detect anything out of that ordinary that would indicate a security threat, right? In this particular third part, the modeling the attack probability, so defining a list of asset, existing security control, and you can say identifying the vulnerabilities as well as the misconfiguration, right? Okay, Okay, so that's what we do in the modeling the attack possibility, right? And another now we have in place interpreting the threat model. At this stage, the threat hunter should wear their hacker's hat, right? And they think similar to the hackers, right? And from the beginning, I'm telling you, threat hunting is like or like thinking from a perspective of a hacker or bad hat hacker. Okay, so now that's the thing we do in the interpreting the threat model, right? So having the threat intelligence feed at this stage helps to to extract the required knowledge of threat actors and the TTPs, right? Additional threat actors should constantly think of alternative to bypass certain controls and be proactive. And in the fifth stage, creating a traceability matrix to record a missing or a weak control, right? So what happened in this particular stage is that based upon the finding, mitigation control should be assessed, what are the threat, what are the threat surface, what are the threat actors, what are the threat goals, impact, right? All these kind of things we do in this particular thing. So this is something which is called the threat modeling method we have in place, right? Like we have, okay, right. Then we have something another thing. Okay, so now we have discussed about threat modeling methodologies and all these kind of things we have discussed about. This is provided by the Microsoft, to be very specific, right? Now let's understand about organization maturity and readiness, right? Let's say for example how much an organization is actually prepare for this kind of things. Let's look into that particular part, right? So how much an organization is aware about. Yeah, organization maturity and readiness, right? That how much an organization is actually aware in the context of a threat hunting. Fine. So threat hunting, is one of the defense layer among the existing control tools and the procedure to mitigate cyber threat. So that is necessary for all the organization to have in place. So like the CISO, the okay, the CEO, the CTO should always take note that the efficient threat hunter would only be possible in a mature environment where the required process, technology, and the people are in place. As I already told you, the threat hunting is already a very expensive thing. So, in order to perform in threat hunting, in your organization there are certain kind of a prerequisites, certain kind of resources that you need to have in your particular system, right? That is a responsibility of the CISO, CEO, CTO, and all these big senior executive in your organization, that these kind of things should be there for the particular person in order to perform it. Okay, an advanced state of art of threat hunting, okay, where firewall, antivirus, EDR, DLP, and the security infrastructure and event manager, in short, we call it the SIM, right, are integrated and correlated, the rich data. This will assist skillful security analysts leveraging the latest reliable threat intelligence indicator of compromised feeds and actionable tactical techniques and procedure coming together to find the potential suspicious activity with minimum false positive. So loading a high volume of indicator of compromise, can slow down the security application, right? Inspecting every single data packet against millions of indicator of compromise is a very tedious task, and trust me, it will create a lot of problem in the context of an application. If you're just taking a lot of indicator of compromise and you think that okay, this could be good going wrong, this could be going wrong, this could be going wrong, you're just taking all of them and just putting all of that in the application, and trust me, that application will be processing it. The more the thing you're putting inside that particular application, definitely for sure it is going to take a lot of time, a lot of processing power for that application to just process it out and just give you an output. Fine, if you're using an automated tools like this for doing the handling part, right? Okay, so the analyst should perform the assessment and understand the existing enterprise capability prior to launching a threat hunting program, and this will define their threat hunting program and investment in phases to reach their desired threat hunting maturity level. Fine, so we have 5 levels in place, let's talk about them as well, right? So again, it's if you in your respective organization, whichever organization you guys are working right now, if you do not have a threat hunting model in place, do not worry. First of all, understand like your own basic requirement. And if you are at the very basic initial level, what you're going to do is that there are, like, we will be discussing all this thing, like we have 5 levels from the initial to the much more advanced level. Okay, so we categorize organization, right? Let's go and talk about that. It will really help you understanding about it. That is something which is called by the name of threat hunting maturity model, right? This is a very beautiful diagram we have in place. Okay, so level 0 is an organization which is very new, right, at the foundational level. So the threat hunting programs mainly rely on the automated tool. So if an organization is level 0, it will be relying on the automated tool, right? Because why? Because hiring up, but let's say for example I am a threat hunter. If you hire me, trust me, it would be an expensive thing, to be very frank with you guys, right? So, and to be very frank, these level 0 organizations do not want that. They are very small organization, not having a lot of a budget. So what they do is that instead of having a actual particular person and then paying them a salary and then bonus and increment, all this kind of stuff, what they approach is at the very beginning, at this initial level, at this level 0, what they do is that instead of going and approaching a particular person, what these level 0 organizations do is that they go for automated alarming tools, right? Automated tools, alarming tools, right? Like which correlated like with their antivirus, IDS and SIM, right? So this collected information are not very comprehensive, but the problem is this, that because it is a complicated thing, it is, again, what you're doing is that you're taking all of the indicator of compromise. Indicator of compromise in short means is that these are all the things that you think that somebody say some of your system has told you that something is going wrong. Your sim solution, any kind of system has told you that there's something going wrong. You're taking that particular piece of a data, all of that data, and dumping into some kind of an automated tool, right? And that particular automated tool is processing it out and just telling you that okay, this is a thing where something can have gone wrong, or this is just a false alarm, right? So what is happening here is that it, in order to save the money and because you lack the infrastructure, you are just relying on the automated tool, which is kind of having a correlation with the some solution or the IDS or the antivirus, or you have web, right? Web application firewall, all this kind of thing. It is integration, but the collected information you are having is not comprehended, it's not detailed, right? It will be just an overview. Fine, that is a disadvantage you will be getting. So threat hunting at this level is extremely limited, and you can say it is close to zero. It is not an actually threat hunting, it is just a beginning, it's just a toddler, right, which just started to just crawling it, right? You cannot just consider it even walking, right? It's a very, and most of the organizations starts from here, no matter how big organization is. Let's say for example there would be Apple, Microsoft, multiple organizations would be there, trust me guys. Every one of them has started from this particular level. Okay, okay, now we go to this particular, so initial is this one. Okay, now they jump to this level, right? This is the minimum level. So what really happens in the minimal level is that the data collection process is somewhat limited to using the automated alerting tool at level 7. These tools identify the potential security issue and incident automatically. However, to enhance this particular process, the IT data is also used for daily incidents response activities by using threat intelligence suites, which provides information about the known threats. The collected data is then analyzed and connected together in a system called like your SIM, okay, or other log management tools. So security analysts, what they can do is that they can search this database on a specific indicators of compromise, right, anti-TP, that are associated with a known malicious activity. Despite having these capabilities, the threat hunting capability is still considered weak at this particular stage. This means that while the system can detect and respond to known threat based upon the historic data, it may not be as effective in proactively hunting for a new or emerging threat that have not been seen before. Threat hunting requires more advanced and proactive techniques to identify the potential risk that automated systems might miss, right? So that's a very big thing, where it's a very huge thing that many time in your interview or anywhere you go and there is a thing that the organization, the the interviewer would be asking you, or the interview asking you, right, that uh, if we have antivirus, we have anti-malware solutions, right? So why we need a threat hunting program for that? Okay, why? Because threat hunting program, what it does is that it just, before having an attack, right, or before even the things even escalate further, what is going to happen is that that particular thing is going to approach it and analyze it and just going to stop it at a very initial stage, so that it would not spread out. It's like detecting the cancer at a very earlier stage. The earlier the cancer is detected, the better the cure would be. Simple as that. If the cancer is at the level 4 or the third level, right, at the stage third or fourth level, it's very next to impossible to the possibility decreases that the particular survival rate of that particular person would be there. Okay, that possibility decreases a lot, right? And if you are able to detect it at a very early stage, trust me, the possibility of the survival is very high. Same as the threat hunting. If you go and manually do the threat hunting part, the sooner you catch the particular virus, right? Let's say, for example, today my system has been compromised, attacker has visited my organization, right, at 9 p.m., and at 6 or 7, let's say, for example, within 2 3 days, I'm able to catch that something has going wrong in by myself, right? So what I can do is that I can stop that particular thing from escalating. Okay, we will be talking about privilege escalation. There's a thing as well, we need to understand the thing as well. So I will stop that particular thing from spying on me, stealing my data and all those kind of things, right? So I'm stopping that particular thing from escalating as well. That's the thing. Okay, so that's a minimum. It's still not a very good, but quite good as compared to the initial stage. Now that's the organization move to level 2, which is the procedural, right? In what happens in the procedural part is that at this level of threat hunting, it begins with the basics. Threat analyst and researcher, you know, create procedure for identifying potential threat, and these procedures are applied within the organization. However, the organization threat hunting is mostly based on procedure that are already published or shared by, you can say, researcher or cybersecurity uh, service providers, right? Okay, so while the organization is actively looking for these threats, they have not yet developed their own unique and creative procedure for threat hunting. Instead, they rely on existing method and guidelines provided by the others. Fine. So that's why it's the procedure, because somebody has already provided a procedure to them. They have not built the guideline by themselves, right? Okay. Then we have another level in place, which is called by the name of innovation. And in this stage, what really happens is that threat hunters are highly trained and knowledgeable. They are practically, experienced in analyzing the cybersecurity data to find signs of, malicious and suspicious activity. These threat hunters can access more data and use advanced techniques like, let's say, for example, like data visualization, okay, machine learning, to create their own procedure for threat hunting. And they are very skilled, and you can say, they're very skilled enough to make their process consistent and repeatable, which means that they can follow the same steps to hunt for threat in a systematic manner. So now, in short, in the innovation part, what they're doing is that they are building up their own process to find out that particular thing, right? The hackers are so sorry the threat hunters are so experienced. So what they're doing is that they're building up their own methodology in place, right? And then we have the leading phase. Okay, so at this stage, level 4, what is happening is that the hunter the threat hunter have become more advanced in their skills. So they can now automate, you know automate their repetitive task, right, and fine tune their existing progress. So this automation, what it does, that this automation really helps them to save the time. Okay, so because what they have done is that they have built such of a skills that they can create their own methodology and they can automate that particular methodology as well. So it saves a lot of time for the organization, for themselves as well. Okay, so they can force on creating new and more effective process for threat hunting as well, right? That's a thing. Okay, that what we do in level 4, leading part, when the particular person creates his own terminologies and techniques and methods and automate them, right? And because it's now automated, he does not need to worry about it. And then what he will do is that it will now start focusing upon some different kind of threats. Okay, that's the thing we have in place. These is the thing which you have: haunting threat hunting maturity model, right? Okay, so you can categorize at which level your particular organization is, whether it's at level 0, level 1, level 2, level 3, or level 4, right? Okay, so many people think that, guys, threat hunting is an automation part. Everything is automated in threat hunting, right? But in you can I would say that human element of threat hunting. Let's talk about that particular part, the human element. So threat hunting is, you can say it's an art, right? A little bit of science as well. So human element, bring all these things together with their knowledge and experience to mitigate these kinds of things in place, because the automation tool has these own problems. Okay, the automation tool, as I told you, it heavily rely upon the database, and the database is, if it's not updated, the automation tool would not be able to contain or eradicate or resolve that particular issue, right? So that's why we need human intelligence, we need human being, right? Okay, so the cyber threat intelligence, or the threat intelligence, right, it's very critical for, for any organization, defense, right? So there are many different form of intelligence present. Okay, then they can use the, machine intelligence, they can use signals intelligence, right, which is called the signet, and they can use social media intelligence, right, which is called sockment. Okay, but there is one more source of intelligence which is overlooked, which is called the human intelligence, and that's why, that's the reason we have, you know human component in threat hunting, right? We cannot completely rely upon the automation tool, because I told you automation tool will rely upon the database should be updated. If not, they cannot figure out whether this particular virus or a file or a folder just in front of them is a valid or not. If they found out that, okay, we scanned a file and that particular file, it does not have any kind of a malicious signature, which from my perspective, if I compare it with my database, I does not have any signature which is saying that this is a threat, they will let that particular virus pass through them. Okay, even they have scanned it, that's a problem, that's a problem with every tool. Okay, and definitely for sure you can resolve it with, or this machine learning, AI, and all this kind of things, you can train them, but that's a very complicated thing, and it's at a very initial stage, right? People are talking in the field of cybersecurity about that kind of things, but still it is a very far, it's a very, it's going to take a lot of time, right? So that's why we are focusing upon the human intelligence, right? So human intelligence, you can define this as, or you can say human, right, HUMINT, can say is that, define as a process of gathering intelligence through the interpersonal contacts and engagement, rather than the technical process, the feed, the or automatic monitoring. So it is a risky practice that requires very particular set of skills, but it can provide you with the most valuable intel. Why it could be risky? Because you need to guy who has this kind of skills to handle it, right? Another thing is that that particular person should not leak the any kind of vulnerability or the findings to any third party or some any of your competitors. That should not be there, right? Okay, now let's talk about threat hunting team structures we have in place, right? So there are, various structure of threat hunting teams we have, depending upon your organization culture, scope, budget, structure, right? All these kind of things. The most common team structures are, like the external models we have in place. Then we have, mm, you know internals model, which is also called as a dedicated internal hunting team model. Then we have, hybrid team model as well. And then we have periodic hunt team model. Like, mostly we have four type of it. Let's discuss one of them. So first type of threat hunting model we have is this, which is called external model. This model means that instead of doing the threat hunting within your organization, you hire an outside team or a company to do it for you, right? That's something which is called the external model, right? So in this particular thing, what you do is that you approach me. If in your organization something happens, you want to do the threat hunting part, what you will do is that, right, so you will be approaching me, right, and I will be doing all this kind of things for you. Okay, that is an external model we have in place. When you had someone from your outside of your organization, okay, let's say the same as like the pen tester we have, right? If you in your organization you does not have a threat hunter or a pen tester, what you do is that one kind of approach we have is that we approach is outside of it. We go to the outside world and we kind of hire a particular person, and that's it, right? That particular person will be doing all this kind of thing for us. Fine. Right, but definitely for sure there is would be a contract signed between the particular person and the organization that if he finds out any sensitive information, he's at any cost not going to reveal it to anybody else. Right, that is the thing we have in place. Then we have another which is called dedicated internal hunting team. The first was you are taking going outside and just taking a person, approaching it up, building up a contract and all these kind of things. Second is the dedicated internal team model. In this, what you do is that inside your organization, you build up your own team, right? Definitely for sure, it is going to be much more expensive as compared to the first one. In this, a big company or the government organization, they have special team of expertise whose main job, or experts whose main job is to look for the potential threat to their computer system and network. These experts are known as threat hunters, pen testers, all this kind of thing, right? So they are very good at what they do, right? And they work full time to keep up with the organizations from safe from cyber attack. Okay, right? That is a dedicated internal threat hunting team we have in place. Then we have a combined or a hybrid team model. So sometimes in this is kind of seen in the small organization. So sometimes in small organization or teams, one team member might have more than one job, right? Let's say, for example, they could be both a SOC analyst, right, who looking for the security issue in real time, and a threat hunter who look for the potential threat proactively. So similarly, they could also be an incident responder who deals with security incident as they happen, and a threat hunter at the same time. So this can happen when there are not if enough people to have a separate team for each role. So the advantage of this particular approach is that SOC analysts already have many of the skills needed for for the threat hunting part. So um, it makes sense to have them take on both roles as it cannot as it can be more efficient for small organization. However, there are some risks as well, right? In this particular combination of role model, the analyst might have many other tasks and responsibilities, such as they handling the daily SOC operations, security incidents, because he's already preoccupied with all of the multiple tasks. This might not have enough time left in the day to focus on the proactive threat hunting approach, because threat hunting takes a lot of time, right? You cannot just keep it side by side. You cannot just keep it aside and just that is not going to be that is not a thing, right? You have to dedicate a lot of time for the threat hunting part. Okay, it's a very hard, it's a very complicated process, right? So this can lead to potential threat being overlooked or not giving enough attention, right? And this could be a problem. Another kind of fourth type of model we have in, or we can team structure we have, which is called periodic hunt team model. In this particular model, what we do have, the security team members have their regular job, but they also assign to be the part of the threat hunting team from time to time. This means that they can take a break from their usually task to focus on actively searching for potential threat to the organization computer system and network, right? So this threat hunting team is formed periodically. It means that it happens once in a while, right? Like you can say like a weekly or every 2 week or a month, right? So when the teams comes together, they have a clear plan and specific tasks to perform to be effective in the threat hunting approach or in the efforts, right? Okay, so now let's little bit now move towards the cloud part as well, right? Now we have discussed a lot about the on-premises one, different models, right? In like different maturity models we have discussed about inside an organization, different maturity model we have. So now let's move a little bit about the cloud part as well. Okay, before that, there are, you need to understand this, that we have you know these three big players in the cloud part, right? Azure, AWS, and the GCP, right? Azure is by the Microsoft, AWS is by the Amazon, and the GCP is by the Google. Okay, the AWS is the leading, right? It was the pioneer of the cloud provider. Particularly I'm talking about the public cloud, right? Azure is by the Microsoft, it is at number second when it comes to the market share in the cloud, public cloud. And GCP is the third player we have in place. Okay, so we have three players: AWS, Azure, and the GCP. All right, so these are the very famous cloud vendors we have. Other cloud vendor also we have, like we have the Oracle, we have Alibaba, and all these kind of things. But these three are the leading providers. Fine. Okay. Now let's talk about something which is called the multi-cloud environment. So in the multi-cloud environment, what we do is that instead of just relying upon the one infrastructure, right? Or you can say, it can usually refers to as distribution of your cloud asset, your software, your application, your infrastructure resources across several cloud hosting environments, right? Typically in a multi-cloud architecture, utilizing two or more public cloud as well as the multiple cloud service provider, with the aim of eliminating the dependency on and achieving a high level of resilience within the environment. So in short, if you say that if you want the infrastructure, if you want to build an application, right, one part of an application you will be deploying over the AWS is right, which is a different kind of a cloud service provider which is provided by the Amazon, and another part of the application or the data of that particular application you will be hosting over the Azure part, right? That is something which is called the multi-cloud environment, in which what you're doing is that you are building up the infrastructure. Some of that infrastructure part you're deploying over the AWS, some of it over the Azure, some over the GCP, some of it over the you know like uh, Oracle, right? So you're just distributing it, right? All this, that is something which is called the multi-cloud environment. So each of the CSP, which is cloud service provider, the CSP stand for cloud service provider, is responsible for particularly activity. For instance, one server for an IS, one would be for like for your PaaS, for would be for your SaaS, right? SaaS services. So each cloud service provider would be handling some different kind of task. What is the benefit you have? Resilience. If something happens to the AWS, some breach happens, something goes wrong, still your a big chunk of your infrastructure is intact because it is distributed. In the field of cybersecurity, we have something which is called single point of failure, right? SPO, single point of failures, SPF, right? So what it means is that, let's say for example, if my all of my organization infrastructure is built upon the AWS, and if something happens to the AWS, there is a huge breach happens, data centers, multiple data centers of the AWS gets compromised. So there's a huge possibility that the data can also, my organization can also really get compromised as well, right? Or my organization or my application could face some downtime. So now what can happen is that I redistribute it. What I do is that I take a chunk of my app tech, you know, kind of my infrastructure and place it over the particular AWS, then take a chunk of my particular infrastructure and place it over the Azure, and then take it another chunk and place it over the Azure, right? That's what I am redistributing it across different vendors, right? So this multi-cloud computing enables organizations to reduce the downtime, right, and prevent the data loss. Because why data loss? Because what you can do is that you can also, because again this approach would be expensive, but remember this is a possibility. If you have the data you are holding is very sensitive, what you can do is that you can store the data, one copy of the data in AWS, one copy of the data in the Azure, and one other copy of the data in the GCP, or another one in the Oracle. If one goes down, still you have the data still present there, right? That is an approach you can take. But remember this thing, it is going to be very expensive. Okay, so this is always advised to avoid single point of failure, right? This using this particular approach, because your organization is not just relying upon only one cloud provider, right? So there are several advantage of deploying a multi-cloud architecture, right? Including reduced resiliency on a single vendor, cost efficiency, you can say increased flexibility as well, right? Okay, choice, and all these kind of things, right? So these things we have in place. But when it comes to the challenges, one of the challenges with the multi-cloud environment is that obtaining a single source of truth of current scenario control and assess inventory. If I just break it down, what it means is that if, let's say for example, if in my organization I have just break it down into three chunks, and one of the chunk is in one platform, and now my get to know that from multiple some solution or multiple things, right, third party tools or inbuilt tools inside these cloud service provider, I get to know that um, The system has been compromised, right? And so there was somebody, particular person was there who was trying to download something or was to performing some kind of malicious activity. It is very difficult for me to just uh, figure it out, right? That is the biggest problem here. Okay, that is one of the biggest challenges. And another thing is that in this particular thing, another problem I have in place is that because the data or the particular infrastructure is already risk distributed, right? So the data as well, so the data, part of the data would be in the AWS, another part of the data would be in the Azure, another would be in the cloud part. What is going to happen is that the data would be shared among different parties, which may be concerned that the data protected in the privacy issues, right? If one of them, due to any reason faces an attack and the data gets leaks, definitely for sure it would be a very big concern for your organization. Okay, that is a thing we have in place. So that's something which is called multi-cloud environment we have in place. Okay, now let's talk about another topic we have in place. Okay, now let's talk about threat hunting, goal and objective. So threat hunting is like fishing in a big ocean. You need to know which ocean you are in and how much you know about it, how deep you can go, which type of fish you are planning to fish, right? You want to catch, and which is your existing equipment you have, and how skillful you are. Okay, and all these kind of things. So you should be well aware about your environment. However, knowing what fish you are looking for is an important as knowing what type of threat you are looking for in your environment to hunt, right? So the threat hunting has been introduced to meet different goals and objectives. So for instance, based upon my particular experience, there is no organization that can claim that they are running with fully 100% patch systems free of any vulnerability or any misconfiguration, right? Not to mention that there are from time to time unknown assets in organization that just pops up like mushroom. So on the other hand, there are multiple companies running a legacy infrastructure. Why? Because to replace them it would be very costly. So that's why many organizations, what they do is that they just keep using the legacy system. Means that the vendor has said that I will not be providing any kind of a security patch or any kind of a support to this particular product. Okay, that's a legacy system. My why organizations still use a legacy system? Because in today's world, if you in your organization, if you want to purchase a server, a basic server would be costing at least 6 to 7, or even I would say 9 lakh Indian rupees, right? It's a lot of money. 9 lakh Indian rupees up for a basic server, right? So what it definitely for sure what happens is that a vendor would be saying, organization which has manufactured their server would be saying that we will be providing the security patches, maintenance to it for a, let's say, 3 years. After 3 years, it is a legacy system, right? No update, no patch, nothing. You have to just replace it. Okay, after 3 years it would be kind of a liability for you. Many organization does not want that. So in order to cost cut this, just to save the cost, what they do is that they start using the legacy issue, and that could be, trust me, it could be a big problem to you, right? From a security point of view, it could be a completely a disaster for you, right? That kind of things we have in place. So that's that kind of thing you have also have to keep in mind when you're doing the threat hunting part. That does your organization has any sort of these things in place? Okay, so let's talk about skill set required for threat hunting, right? So to avoid similar misconception, may keep this particular thing in mind, that threat hunter is not only an automated process that that you can only use kind of an automation tool and it would be gone. No, it is not, right? It require constant tuning, might constant remediation, removing of the false positive, all this kind of thing. That's why human interaction is there. Being should be there, right? We cannot depend upon the machines automation part. A lot of problems are there for sure. Definitely automation increases a thing, but a lot of limitations are there for it, right? So what we hear is that when we talk about the skill set part, in the skill set part we need a human being. That's why I told you, that's why I dedicated a time of this session for the human part, because it helps us in tuning. We keep on a regular basis of time, keep on tuning that particular automation tools, all these kind of things. So this require, security analyst experience, proactive investigation, and all those kind of things. Okay. So some of the skill sets, these are just few of them. Trust me, to be a good threat hunter, you need a lot of them. I have just put few of them, right? So let's go one by one. First, I've written as a security analyst. The threat hunter should be able to understand and work with network packet, right? Indicator of compromise, work with log credentials, tools, SIM solutions, right? Ideas could be reverse engineering the malware and all this kind of thing, right? And know how to exploit, do know what the CVS is, right? See what is the CVE, all these kind of, from a security point of view, you should be a very good, have an understanding of all these things. They must be constantly updated with the the knowledge of threat actors, the tool, the tactics, right? So similar to any other security roles, they must know how different things works, what are the critical files in the process, right? All these kind of things able to do. Then comes the data analyst. The threat hunter should be able to know how to combine different data together in a structured and unstructured manner. They need visual demonstrations, machine learning tool, elastic search, relevant skills. Due to this high volume of data, the hunt the hunter, the the threat hunter deals with experience and knowledge in machine learning, helps them training with machine learning tools, with normal behavior, and all these activities. So data analysts, so they can deprocess the data, because what happens is that threat hunters get the data of the compromise from the alerts from a lot of resources. So what it is that you have to manage it, organize it, and then you should have also the capacity and the skills to understand and program the machine learning tools as well. You can just train them. Okay, that's the thing on the new data, right? Okay. Then we have the programming languages, right? With most INT and IT and security job role, basic programming language is a must, because it's a requirement, right? Programming language is a kind of a language which helps you interacting with the machine, server, your system, anything, right? That's a prerequisite. So that's a skill set we, absolutely for sure. That's why I've written here. Many people think that this is not going to be the case. You have to learn a programming language, Python, Java, or I would say at least two or three programming languages. C++ and Python should be a good start if you want to have a career in threat hunting, right? Okay, right. Particularly Python, C++ absolutely mandatory, because a lot of things you can do with the Python, the automation part, right? That is quite easy for the newcomers if they do not have any sort of an experience. Fine. Okay. Then we have analyst mindset, right? So hunter, the threat hunter should have an analysis mindset to able to develop the hypothesis and build various use cases, right? Analyst mindset means analyze the data, right? Okay, that this is thing, this is this is the data which is talking about, all these kind of things. So you should have an analyst mindset as well, right? You should be good with the numbers, right? The output, turning the procedure, and analyzing the data, all these kind of things, good with the numbers, right? Very very good. And the fifth is the soft skill. The threat hunters need to talk with the different technicals, and non-technical people in your particular organization time to time, right? Non-technical meaning salespersons, that if you want to create a policy in your organization, the CEO approaches you, and a threat hunter of an organization working as a threat hunter in your organization. So what is going to happen is that in your respective organization, you have to communicate with the CEO, CTO, and many of the time I have seen is that CEO and CTO are not aware about, even they are running a cybersecurity organization, they have no idea about what is a threat, what is a vector, what is the attack surface, and all this kind of thing. So you should have a soft skill so that you can make sure that any particular person who have no technical knowledge, whether it's your senior or whether it's any of your colleague who is working in different departments, sales, marketing, anything like that, you should able to communicate, because it's very very important. Okay, that do not click on any link, right? How to configure it, if you find, if there is an sort of an alert is there, anything like that, how you are easily able to communicate with them, that's a very important thing, soft skill, right? Okay. And another thing is outsourcing. Many organizations, due to lack of security talent, prefer to outsource the managed security services. While managed services providers provides advanced technologies and rich intel feeds, human factors play a critical role in threat hunting. CISO needs to be ensured that the threat hunting is not a one day contract kind of job. consultants cannot simply walk in, step up, platform, run the exercise, wash their hands, and just walk away. It requires constant presence of hunters, constant, right? Who know the business and the IT environment and work on the case and artifact 24 by 7. If you are aware about something in the defensive part and the security, we have something which is called the SOC. Okay, SOC is a 24 by 7 process, right? Threat hunting is kind of a part of the SOC. Okay, so SOC is a 24 by 7 process. It is not a thing that I outsource a source. Even if I do that, I have to rely completely upon them. So my traffic, everything, logs, indicator of compromise, alerts would be redirected to them. They will be analyzing it, and if something would be going wrong, they will be responding to that as well, right? So outsourcing means that in your respective organization it should not be outsourced. In a short term you can do that, okay, if your organization is very small, well, limited capacity of a budget, you can do that till some extent. But you have in if you want to play big and for a long duration of a time, building up or hiring the talent would be a right approach, right? Okay, you cannot outsource it, because again, trust me, it would also be very expensive thing, and completely, just taking an unknown particular person and just giving him the responsibility that, okay, find out and analyze all of these things, right? Just go through a network, find out vulnerability and all this kind of things. It is a very stupid thing from my particular perspective. So if I go approach certain organization, what I recommend them or tell them that it's a best approach that you start building or hiring, or start investing in your own team members or your employees, right? Make them skill, build their skills, right? That kind of thing. Okay, so these are the skill sets we need for the threat hunting part: security analyst, data analyst, programming languages, analytic mindset, soft skills should be there for the communication part, and the outsourcing, very very important. Okay, there are plenty of them, but just I have written the only 6 from my experience. Okay, there could be plenty and plenty of them. Then let's talk about something which is called shared responsibility model. If you are talking about the cloud part, there is something which is called the shared responsibility model, right? In share responsibility model, what we do is that, yeah, right, in the share responsibility model means that, let's say for example, I am, creating a server, or in the AWS we say it as an instance, right? Okay, some just a fancy name, nothing else. Okay, a kind of instance or a server we are creating in the AWS part. Now what we're doing is that I will be signing up the contract with the AWS that, okay, if something happens to my server, right, in the EC2 I'm building it up, the it is now your responsibility. If at some any kind of an attack happens to my server, or the data gets leaked, the data gets compromised, it is going to be the responsibility of the cloud service provider. Okay, that is something which is called the share responsibility model. It is kind of a share responsibility, as the name by itself suggests. You are just kind of sharing the responsibility between the two particular parties, right? That is something which is called the share responsibility model between the customer and the AWS. Right now in this image you are saying that this is just about the customer and the AWS, but it could be about the customer and multiple other platform. I can use AWS, Azure, GCP, all these different kind of thing I can have as well, right? That is something which is called share responsibility model, where you are just finding, or sharing a responsibility, right? It's, as you could see the diagram, see the customer data, the platform application identity, IAM is a customer responsibility. But when it comes to the AWS, the compute, the storage part, the database, the networking, okay, the availability zone, the regions we have in place in the AWS, it's a kind of. So we have AWS services for monitoring, log, and alerting. This is threat hunting in the AWS part. Just an overview and tools. I will be telling you that this is the tools which will be used for the threat hunting part. Okay, so let's go by one. Right, this is the first tool which is called by the name of Cloud Trail, which will be used. Okay, so this is a tool we have in place which is called by the name of Cloud Train in AWS. Right, let me show this thing in the context of the AWS. Let me just open it up. Right, so these are the things. Again, cloud, threat hunting is a very vast topic. Okay, I just click into the cloud trail part. See, it tracks your activity in the API. So anything I do here, I can easily find out that it's kind of create the log, right? Okay, so logs are created here. See here, console login, and this particular time it was I was logged in, right? I shared the snapshot, I run the instance at this particular moment of time. You can see that, right? So this is one of the application which helps you in your particular thread hunting, this cloud trail. A lot of things you can play with it, right? You can log in, you can just click on view full event history, everything you can look from the root account, right? If I share it, if I elastic beanstalk has created it for some of my practical, I was showing it, right? All these kind of things. So it is a log has been created. It helps us a lot in a thread hunting part. This cloud trail, if I go with it, it helps me a lot. This particular data, I can just collect this data, select it. You can see that I can select it as well, right? And what I can do is that I can just I can just transport it somewhere else, right? I can use the AWS provided services, or what I can do is that I can use some third party applications and just select these things and download it. Or at here it is, you can see create Athena tables. Athena is like for creating the database, okay? That kind of thing I can do here, right? Okay, perfect. So this is kind of which is called the AWS Cloud Trail we have in place. Oh, just a minute. Yeah, right. All these things I can select it out. Then we have another service in place which is called by the name of AWS Cloud Watch Logs. CloudWatch, right? This is another service we have in the AWS. It's very, very important, right? I'm just going to it. All you need to do in the AWS is just go to the search bar, hit enter, and that's it. Okay. So first is the Cloud Trail, right? Which kinds of maintains a log of your activities as well as the API calls that you have created. Okay. This is something which is called the Cloud Troll, right? Cloud Watch. You can set up the alarms, right? You can see here, you can set up the alarms as well in alarms on billing and all this kind of things. You can set it up here. You can create an alarm, right? Also very important, you can create an alarm based upon saying, so if you want that at certain point of time, if something happens to your system, kind of IP, you know certain services are there, and that particular services is trying to access some kind of an IP or want to get inside it. What is going to happen is that alarm would be created, and this particular alarm you can configure it with this, and what you can happen is that you can attach your email address, and it will be sending an email address to you, kind of a notification. Something goes wrong, some ideas like, okay, intrusion detection system, it detects something is going wrong. What you can do is that it will be sending you an SMS or either a email address. That's what the CloudWatch can be used for. There's another service we have in place which is called AWS VPC flow logs, right? So what this VPC flow log does is that, this particular help us to capture the information about the IP traffic that is going in and from the this server. Let me, if I draw it out, it will be like, we have a VPC, virtual private cloud, a kind of an isolated place provided by the AWS. Okay, and in that particular VPC, what we do is that I can build up a server, and what I can do is that using this VPC flow logs, I can control that if any service who is coming to this particular server, right, and what kind of traffic is going outside from this particular server. So if this server is compromised, what kind of traffic is going out and what kind of traffic is coming up, which is something which is called VPC flow logs, right? Using that as well. So these things we have in place in AWS. All these things are provided. So based upon the services, the tools they have already provided, you have to use based upon that. As I told you in the CloudWatch, we can do is that you can set up the alarms, right? If certain conditions are met, these alarms would be created. Cloud logs are, before CloudWatch, CloudTrail is there, right? CloudTrail, what it does, the CloudTrail does is that it contains the logs, more than that as well, but just for right now, the logs it maintains. You can use that logs to identify that something is going wrong. And there is something which is called the VPC flow logs. VPC flow logs, what it does is that it tells you which kind of things or resources were being accessed by somebody else from outside of this VPC, and where the particular, traffic was going from this particular server. Okay, that was something which is called the VPC we have in place. VPC flow log, we call that. Okay, and then we have something which is called AWS Security Hub. Let me just erase it up, right? Something which is called the Security Hub in place. The Security Hub, Security and a Compliance Center. I just click into the Security Hub part, and there can be plenty of it, right? So just I'm providing in only the four basic. Okay, so this is something which is called the AWS Security Hub in place. Just give it a minute and let it load. See there, you can see here, manages and improve your security postures. The AWS security hubs provide a consolidation view of your security status in AWS, automate security checks, manage security finding, and identify the high priority security issues across the AWS environment, right? So this is how it does that. Okay, fine, but definitely for sure, if you use it, it is going to be charged. 30-day free trial is there. After that, you will be charged for that. Something is called the AWS Security Hub, which gives you a comprehensive view of the security alert and security posture across your AWS account, right? All these kind of things. Okay, this is something which is called the AWS we have. Okay, so these things we have in Cloud Trail, CloudWatch, right? VPC flow logs and Security Hub. These tools we have in place, which we can use in a combination in threat hunting. They will help us in threat hunting part, right? Okay. Again, definitely for sure, threat hunting first. What we need to do is that we need to collect the data, right? The lot of variety of data. We will be collecting that data, and then what is going to happen is that then we will be using different, like we have in AWS Athena, and then what we'll be doing is that we will be just putting all of the data that we have collected into that AWS Athena, and it will be just kind of then we can set just put up the queries, and we can get the base of an information based upon the queries that we have provided, like we do in the SQL. We will get the information, right? Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about the future of the threat hunting. Like, if you look at the most recent SolarWind breach, there was a SolarWind organization, okay, very famous organization with the name of SolarWind. So it was breach, right? And attackers was present in their system for months. So it was a huge embarrassment for that. That is the reason the threat hunters are there. Threat hunters keeps on looking at a regular interval of time that some of your system is that no unauthorized person is sitting over your network. That is the thing we deal with, right? That is something which is called, that is kind of future of the threat hunting. Is in threat hunting nowadays we are going to implement machine learning, AI as well, to make the applications, the automation tools much more smarter, much more understandable, right? Without human interaction, they would easily able to find it out and mitigate it without any human interaction. That is kind of things we are having it.